In the book, The User Illusion, there is a claim that consciousness, or I, looks like sitting in the car and has illusion of steering the wheel, because it holds the steering wheel, but it doesn't steer, it's just an illusion. And the car is under control of something else, like your body. But there's an argument that you still is able to hit the brakes. And I have a question. What exactly tell us when we should hit the brake? What exactly advises us, interacts us? I'm playing the piano, and when I play the piano, when I practice, me practicing the piano while I try to stay away of the way. When I start playing a piece, for example, for the very first time, I'm very conscious of my fingers, what kind of key it hits, because I try to learn slowly to practice certain pieces. And when, with the time, my fingers playing almost on their own, and I is able to enjoy this piece. My point is that we are dual creatures. We have I and we have me. I, it's self-awareness, and me, it's the body and all those senses that come through our bodies from the environment we exist. Because in some sense, we're not in control of our body. That's what the user illusion argue. We're not in control of this car. This car operates on its own. We think we are, but we're not. But we're able to hit the brake. We're able to stop this body from existence, and we're able to do a bunch of other things, but not exactly control it. And what's happened is, for example, I'm not in control of my internal organs. They functioning on their own, and I have no idea how my heart beats, or I don't know how my liver works, or how my blood sugar is regulated inside my blood, because I don't know about this anything. It works on its own, my breathing, for example. But I'm aware that I'm alive, and that's what I does. It has this awareness of life itself, and the body itself, and the environment itself. And this dual existence in us, to be able to properly live this life, what I'm doing, for example, I learned to play the piano, right? Because my eye can enjoy the music. Through the practice of me, it makes me better by learning complicated pieces. Also, for example, when I read complicated, sophisticated literature or some scientific work, I have to keep my body still for several hours while I'm reading this piece and try to understand what I'm reading. Again, I have to control me, the body, from those urges to step and do something else or interrupt mental work. Then again, I think we have to learn to do paintings. We have to learn to do art. Why? Because art helps us to understand immortality. Because art is immortal. And this I in us, this self-awareness, this consciousness, it helps us to be aware of the beauty we exist with. Because without I, without this internal and external observer that I in some sense is, we can't be aware of the beauty of the world and of the beauty we can produce on our own. Because without I, we become animals who just persist in present, only focus to survive, procreate, and that's it. And that's why art is incredibly important for us to learn. And we always have to struggle. Like I have to struggle with myself. You see, even this expression, I'm struggling with myself. I struggle with me. Why? Because me, if it's not in control of I, usually select the easiest path to exist. And it's select easiest path to learn, to practice, like for example satisfying its own urges through developing certain addictions. And when you're not in control of me, for example, if you aren't able to control yourself, your body controls you. And what happened to I, when, for example, my body controls me, I degrade itself as well, because I has less and less ability to recognize the beauty, external and internal beauty of the world and of the self. For example, if I keep practicing me by letting it satisfy my constant urges, I literally waste my time, because this life from one urge to another, when you follow your body, the me itself, what it does is just stealing away your time, and you have no awareness of the beauty. And why we need this awareness of the beauty? There's something about it. There's something about us, because when you keep satisfying your urges, you have some internal shame. This voice within you, the voice of God or your consciousness, that tells you that you're doing something wrong, although you can reason with your brain as a lawyer that will tell you you don't do nothing wrong because you're adult. Why not to please your urges? Why not to satisfy your urges? But there's something in you that keeps you embarrassed. There's something in you that try to force you to live in this shameful secret of your bodily satisfaction. And that's what art is important. Maybe that's why humanity created this art in the first place, and religion in the first place, because it helps us to find some meaning in the self-awareness of ourselves. Because cats, dogs, they have very limited self-awareness, not enough to be fully aware of themselves and to create beauty that would amplify their awareness and leave something to the future generation, the body of work. Because that's exactly what we call the body of work, because when you live proper life, you create something, and you actually can enjoy something that beyond your body, like sophisticated literature. It's a good example. Like music, we don't know why music affects us the way it does, and how sophisticated music affects us in a more sophisticated way. And we have to be very careful, because a lot of people start seeing art as something that irrelevant. But it's not, because that's the way you, in some sense, reduce the conflict between I and me. And I think that's the goal of successful life, to reduce the conflict between I and me. I want to let them coexist with each other and complete one another. And it's only possible if I advise me what practice it should do, for I to be able to be aware of the result of those practice, and to be able to derive some beauty that lead I to discover meaning of life. Otherwise, if I let me to decide what kind of practice it has to do, it usually leads to urges, incredibly primitive urges, that might turn into addiction, and therefore the life itself will reduce into existence, and then into animal existence, and eventually into tragic way of being. Because you have to be able to control me, and me by letting it practice. Otherwise, there's no way to slam the brakes. Because yes, we're not in control of ourselves, but you practice this control. You practice this awareness that you can slam on the brake anytime you need. And to be able to do so, you have to have this knowledge on the back of your head, and also you have to keep practicing slamming on brakes in the small moments. Like, for example, when you scroll through the videos for hours, right? If you start practicing to slamming on brakes and put down the phone and not waste your time on this pitiful addiction, it's the first practice of slamming on brakes. Because when something crucial happens, you'll be able to slam on those brakes much more quickly and save yourself from too much temptation of doing something that would give you shame and embarrassment for wasting time. Because time, for me, for example, is the most important thing, since that's how I measure my life, because my life is not endless. It will be gone. I already lived half of my life and already wasted enough of time. And I think when you try to contemplate yourself contemplate I. You see, you even saying contemplate yourself, think about yourself, think about of I, because you don't think about of me. Me is just the body that aging, but I, it's something different. It's something that helps you to perceive yourself from a different perspective, from a different angle. And once you learn to perceive yourself from a different angle, you try to enforce on me the right kind of practice, because if you enforce the right kind of practice, you learn the right kind of things that would help you find the meaning and be within I. That's what I think a goal, the point of our life, to find the meaning, because we are self-aware creatures. We're self-aware of ourselves and the world, and we're self-aware of why we are here. Because I think we're here to find the meaning, your personal meaning of your life. And I think the meaning of our life in discovering the beauty and God, because I think God and beauty is the same thing. It's what really matters. And what really matters, it's in your hierarchy, because if you put what really matters, like a beauty or God, on top of hierarchy, that's what you start pursuing, and that's what you get. But if you lose yourself and decided to be enslaved by me, by your biology, by your body, then it's really hard to destroy this sinister pairing, like the sinister coupling, the sinister relationship. I think if you, for example, keep I in charge of me, like that's what I'm trying to do, I in charge of me, then it's a good union. But if I let me to be in charge of I, by pushing I aside and feeling constant embarrassment and shame for letting me to control my life, then eventually I unlearn the ability to slam on the brake one step at a time, because this way eventually I not going to be able to slam on the brakes at all, and I will be at the mercy of me. And unfortunately, me has no mercy. Me only has this desire to satisfy its urges. And if you live your life only in satisfaction of those urges, there's no meaning but shame and embarrassment, where you hide yourself inside of the secrecy of your own dark room. But if I in charge of me, then the meaning of your life right in front of you, and you know when to slam on your brakes if me decided to turn and go in a different direction.